My name is Renata Calloway. I am 31 years old. I have a studio apartment in Midtown Atlanta on the 14th floor. On clear mornings, I can see Stone Mountain from my kitchen window while the coffee brews. I have a savings account with a balance that would have felt like science fiction to my 20-year-old self. I have a job I chose. I have a life I built from a foundation nobody handed me. And I have a navy blue folder sitting on the shelf above my desk. It is 2 inches thick. It has 7 tab sections. It took 8 years to fill. Most people who come to my apartment never ask about it. It doesn't look like much. Just a folder. The kind you can buy at any Office Depot for $3.49. But if you knew what was inside it, if you understood what it took to build it, what it cost, what it protected, and what it finally proved, you would understand that that $3.49 folder is the most valuable thing I own. This is the story of how I built it, and why I had to. Before I tell you what's inside that folder, and before I show you the moment I placed it on a Thanksgiving dinner table and watched my uncle stand up and leave the room without finishing his food, I need you to drop a comment right now. Which city are you watching from? And if you have ever been the child in your family who was told, not in words, but in 100 small, quiet, consistent actions, that your future was a resource the rest of the family could borrow from whenever things got tight, keep watching. Because what happened to me has a name. It has a legal definition. And it left a paper trail long enough to bury a man. Let me take you back to the beginning. Not the hallway. Not the letter. Before all of that, I want to take you to the house on Birchwood Drive in Decatur, Georgia. The one with the green shutters and the porch swing that groaned every time you sat down too fast. The one that always smelled like pine sol and something frying. Always something frying, and old newspapers, and the particular kind of dust that settles in a house where someone has lived for 40 years without moving a single piece of furniture. That was Papa Walter's house. Walter Eugene Calloway. My grandfather. Retired postal worker. 38 years of delivering mail in the heat and the cold and the indifferent Atlanta rain, 6 days a week, holidays included, because that was the job, and Walter Calloway did not leave a job half done. He was not a loud man. He was not a demonstrative man. He did not say I love you easily or often, and when he hugged you, it was brief and firm, like something being sealed shut rather than opened. But when he looked at you, when he really turned and looked at you, you felt it. You felt the full weight of his attention, and it was the warmest, heaviest, most serious thing I have ever felt in my life. He had a saying. He would pull me onto that porch swing, just me, not Darius, not anybody else, and in the evenings when the light went gold and the neighborhood got quiet, he would say, "Girl, your mind is the sharpest tool in this family shed. Don't let nobody dull it down." I was 6 years old the first time he said it. I did not know what it meant yet. I did not know he was warning me. My brother Darius was 7 years older than me. First grandchild, first grandson, first everything. By the time I arrived, Darius already had all the air in every room. Not because he took it. Darius was not a cruel person, I want you to understand that, but because my family gave it to him. Handed it over. Freely. Enthusiastically. The way you offer a seat at a table to a guest, and then realize there is nowhere left for you to sit. Darius got the birthday parties with the rented bounce house. I got the birthday cake from the grocery store with the plastic flowers on top. Darius got the new backpack every August. I got Darius's backpack from last year with the broken zipper sewn shut. I am not asking you to feel sorry for me. I was fed. I was clothed. I was loved after fashion. But there is a kind of love that is distributed like a budget, where some people get the full allocation and others get the remainder, and you grow up understanding, at a molecular level, which one you are. I was the remainder. I knew it by age 6. I just didn't have the words for it yet. The first time I understood that being the remainder had a financial dimension, that it wasn't just about attention, it was about money, actual money, money with my name attached to it. I was 9 years old. It was October 2003. Fall in Decatur. That dry, specific smell of leaves going brown on concrete sidewalks, mixed with someone's barbecue 2 houses down, mixed with the cold that hadn't committed yet, hovering just above comfort. Darius had wrecked my Uncle Terrence's truck. He borrowed it that Friday for homecoming weekend. Told my uncle he was going to his friend Devin's house and would be back by 10. Instead, He drove 45 minutes to a party in Stone Mountain, stayed until after 2 in the morning, and coming home on Highway 78 ran a stop sign and clipped the side of a parked car. He wasn't hurt. The car was not okay. The truck was not okay. Damage estimate, $3,400. Now here is what you need to understand about my family's finances in 2003. My father, Garrison Calloway, worked as a floor supervisor at a plastics manufacturing plant in Norcross. Steady income, not abundant. My mother, Beverly, worked part-time at a dental office on Candler Road 3 days a week. We were not poor. We were what people mean when they say getting by, which is another way of saying that there was no $3,400 just sitting somewhere waiting to be used. That Saturday night, the night after the crash, I was supposed to be in bed. I was not in bed. I was on the third step of our staircase, the one where the banister post had a wobble, the one where I'd learned 2 years before that if you sat still enough you could hear almost everything that happened in the living room without being seen. My father's voice, low and certain. "Terrence, we don't have it liquid right now. Not with the car payment and Darius's equipment fees." My uncle, faster. "What about Renata's account? Walter put in what, 18,000? When she was born. It's been growing for 9 years. We take $3,400. Mark it as a transportation-related educational expense. UTMA rules allow it if it's for the beneficiary's transportation needs." A pause. My father, slower. "She's 9, Terrence. She's 9, and she won't notice. We replace it before it matters." My mother's voice, from somewhere near the kitchen. Quieter. "Garrison, it's just this once." Silence. Then my father, "Call Fidelity Monday." I sat on that step for a long time after they moved to the kitchen. Long enough for the cold from the hardwood to seep through my pajama pants. Long enough for the sound of my uncle's voice, saying, "She won't notice," to stop bouncing and settle flat inside my chest like something that had been placed there and was not leaving. I went back to my room. I didn't cry. I didn't understand enough to cry. I just lay in the dark with the ceiling fan spinning and thought about the word notice. She won't notice. Like it was a condition. Like noticing was something that happened to you or didn't, rather than something you chose to do. I noticed. I decided, in that 9-year-old way where decisions don't have language, yet only feeling. I decided that I would always notice. They never replaced the $3,400. Not in the 9 years that followed. Not ever. If you are watching this and you have ever been the child who is treated like a family savings account, who is dipped into, borrowed from, drawn on for other people's emergencies, other people's messes, other people's needs, drop the word steady in the comments right now. I see you. I know exactly what that silence feels like. I need to tell you about the piano lessons. Because the piano lessons are where it started to calcify, where the pattern stopped being a single incident and became a system. August 2002. I had just turned 8. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table with the yellow pages open, actual yellow pages, spiral-bound, fat, the kind that smelled like newsprint and industrial ink, flipping through music instruction. Darius wanted piano lessons. He'd seen something on television, some music video, and decided he wanted to play. $45 per half-hour lesson. Weekly. My mother called 3 different studios before she found one she was satisfied with. She wrote the number on a post-it, stuck it to the refrigerator, and said, "I'll call them tomorrow." 2 weeks later, I asked about the art program at the Decatur Community Center. They offered a Saturday class for children ages 6 to 12. Drawing, watercolor, some sculpture. Cost, $30 a month. I had been drawing since I was 4. Not just scribbling, actually drawing. Animals, houses, faces. My second-grade teacher had framed one of my pieces on the classroom wall. My mother looked up from the sink. "Honey, we just committed to Darius's piano. Maybe next year. But it's $30. His lessons are more." Renata. Just my name. Nothing after it. A period, not a sentence. I said okay, and went in my room. Darius took piano for 14 months. He quit in September 2003. I never got the art class. Not that year. Not the year after. By the time anyone offered again, I had stopped asking. That is what happens to children who are told no enough times in enough gentle, reasonably voiced, utterly final ways. You stop asking, not because you stopped wanting, because you absorbed the lesson. Your wanting is not relevant here. Your wanting is not part of the budget. Your wanting is not a line item. I was 12 years old when the Georgia Tech opportunity came. Georgia Tech Summer Academy for middle school students with advanced aptitude in mathematics and science. 6 weeks. Residential program. I had been accepted on a merit application. Teachers filled out a 2-page form recommending me, and one of them, my 7th grade math teacher, Mr. Okafor, called my mother personally to tell her she needed to enroll me because, in his words, Renata thinks the way engineers think, and if she doesn't get into a room with other kids who think like that, she will spend the next 6 years believing she is strange instead of understanding that she is exceptional. Program fee, $1,100. I brought the acceptance letter to the dinner table. I had practiced what I was going to say. I had figured out how much $1,100 was per month if they started saving in January, which was 4 months away. I had written it on a piece of notebook paper. $275 a month. That was my pitch. My father looked at the letter. He looked at my piece of notebook paper. He looked at my mother. He said, "Let us think about it." They thought about it for 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, Darius got the deposit for a 2-week elite football camp in Tallahassee. Camp cost $2,800. Departure date, June 14th. On June 11th, my mother sat down with me at the kitchen table and told me that the Georgia Tech program just wasn't going to work out financially this summer, and maybe next year they would plan ahead better. And wasn't it wonderful that there was a free science program at the DeKalb County Library on Thursday afternoons? I said yes. I went to the DeKalb County Library on Thursday afternoons. Darius went to Tallahassee. What I did not know, what I would not discover until I was 19 years old, sitting on the floor of a dorm room in Atlanta with 58 pages of bank statements spread around me like a map of every way I had been failed, was that the $2,800 for Darius's football camp came directly from my custodial account at First Federal Bank. Memo line, typed in 12-point font, filed with Fidelity. Beneficiary educational enrichment expense. My name on the memo. Darius's body on the bus to Tallahassee. That is where the rage lives, even now. Not in the big moments. In the memo line. In the fact that someone sat down, opened a form, typed my name next to the word beneficiary, and submitted it for a trip I never went on, for a camp that built my brother's future, while mine sat in a folder nobody had opened yet. The memo line. That is the part that doesn't leave. The first physical evidence I ever held in my own hands was a bank statement I was not supposed to see. I was 14 years old. January 2009. It was a Saturday morning early. My parents were both still asleep. I was looking for a pen, a specific blue ballpoint pen I'd left somewhere in the downstairs office, because I had a math competition worksheet due Monday, and I did not want to use a pencil. I was opening drawers, not really looking, when a manila envelope slipped out from behind a stack of folders and landed on the floor. It had my name on it, Renata D. Calloway. Custodial account, First Federal Bank of Georgia. Statement period, January 2008 to December 2008. I stood in the cold of that office in my socks, and I opened it. The opening balance for 2008 was $11,204.19. The closing balance was $7,892.44. There were 3 withdrawals in between. All 3 listed my name as beneficiary. None of them were things that had happened to me. February 2008, $1,450. Memo, health maintenance, beneficiary Renata Calloway. I had not seen a doctor in 2008 outside of the school nurse for a cold. June 2008, $940. Memo, educational materials, beneficiary Renata Calloway. I bought my own school supplies that summer with money I made babysitting the Hendersons kids 3 doors down. November 2008, $922.11. Memo, transportation and life support, beneficiary Renata Calloway. I rode the school bus. I had no transportation costs. I had no idea what life support meant in this context, and I still don't. I stood in that office for a long time. Then I put the statement back exactly where I found it, slid it behind the folders, closed the drawer, found my pen, went upstairs, sat at my desk, did not do the worksheet, opened a new notebook, one I bought with my own babysitting money, plain composition notebook, black and white cover. And on the first page, I wrote the date, January 17th, 2009, and 3 numbers, 1450, 940, 922. Under them I wrote, "This is money from my account. It was not spent on me." I underlined it. Then I turned the page and started a new section. That composition notebook was the beginning of the folder. I want to stop here. I want to ask you something, because I know there is someone watching this who is going to say, "Renata, they were your family. People make financial mistakes. Why didn't you just talk to them?" And I want you to understand why that question, asked to a 14-year-old girl who had spent the previous 8 years watching money earmarked for her future quietly redirected to her brother's football camp and her brother's car repairs and her brother's piano lessons that he quit after 14 months, why that question assumes a kind of safety that had never been demonstrated to that girl. You talk when talking is safe. You talk when the other person has given you any evidence, even once, that your words will be received rather than managed. My family was very good at managing me. They would have sat me down. They would have used the soft voices they saved for difficult conversations. They would have explained calmly and lovingly that I was misunderstanding something, or that it was temporary, or that the family needed this, or that I was being selfish for even raising it. And I would have sat there and believed them, or not believed them but been unable to prove otherwise, and walked away smaller than when I arrived. That is what the soft voice does. I had learned this at 9 years old on a staircase in the dark. So instead of talking, I kept the notebook. I kept noticing. I was 15 years old on November 17th, 2009, when Papa Walter called me. It was a Tuesday, 6:14 in the evening. I was at the kitchen table doing homework while my mother made dinner, and when my phone buzzed with his name, I felt something I couldn't name. Not dread exactly, but the cousin of dread. The kind of feeling you get when someone you love calls at an unusual time and your body knows before your brain does. That unusual means something. I took the phone to my room and closed the door. Renata. His voice was different. Thinner. He'd started dialysis 2 months earlier, and the machine had taken something from his voice. Not the authority, that was still there, but some of the warmth, like the warmth cost energy he no longer had. "Yes, sir. I need to say something to you. And I need you to just listen. Don't ask questions while I'm talking. Don't react. Just hear me." I sat on the edge of my bed. "Yes, sir. When you were born, I did something. I took out a life insurance policy. Whole life, through Mutual of Omaha. I am the policyholder. You are the sole named beneficiary. $110,000. When I am gone, that money transfers directly to you. Not through your father, not through Terrence, directly to you." My mother's voice floated up the staircase, something about dinner in 20 minutes. "I am telling you this because I need you to know it exists. I am not telling you the company name or the policy number tonight because your uncle has access to my phone records, and if he sees I called you and you called the insurance company the same week, he will start asking questions I don't want him asking yet." "Papa Walter," I said, "just listen." "Yes, sir. I know what has been happening with your account. I know about the truck. I know about the football camp. I know about the 3 withdrawals in 2008. I have been watching it for 4 years, and I have been building something. I have an attorney. His name is Clarence Odom. You won't need him until after I'm gone. But when you do, you go to him. Not your father. Not Terrence. Odom. Write that down." I grabbed the pen from my nightstand. Wrote it on my palm. Clarence Odom. That money is for your education and your life. For your future. It does not belong to the family. It does not belong to emergencies. It does not belong to Darius's next problem. It belongs to you because I am giving it to you, and what a man gives, only he can take back. Pause. You understand me? Yes, sir. Study hard, girl. Your mind is the sharpest tool in this family shed. He hung up. I sat on my bed for 40 minutes. My mother called me twice for dinner. I didn't go down. I sat there and thought about the weight of what had just been handed to me. Not the money, not yet, but the knowledge. The knowledge that someone had seen me, that someone had watched what was happening and decided it was wrong, and had spent years, quietly, building a counterweight. He saw me. In a family that spent a decade treating me like a line item, he saw me. I did not understand yet what it would cost him to tell me. Papa Walter died on January 8, 2011. He was 63 years old. The dialysis had bought 14 months. It did not buy more than that. He died on a Thursday morning, early, before most people were awake, which was appropriate because Walter Calloway had been waking before most people his entire life. He went quietly, which was also appropriate because he was a quiet man. I was 16. I was in second period calculus when the school called me to the front office. My mother was in the parking lot in the car. She didn't say anything when I got in. She didn't have to. I looked at my right palm. The ink was long gone, but I knew what was written there. Clarence Odom. The funeral was on a Saturday. The church on Columbia Drive. The one Walter had attended for 31 years. Open casket, closed expression on his face. That was the thing about Walter. Even in death, he looked like he was deciding something. The sanctuary smelled of flowers and lemon furniture polish, and the collective weight of people in their best clothes. The reception was at my grandmother's house, Mama Ruth's house. She moved through the rooms like a woman holding herself together by sheer force of will, because that is what Mama Ruth had always done. She was 72, and she had been married to Walter for 44 years, and she was not going to collapse in front of her grandchildren. She held my face in both of her hands before dinner.
"He talked about you," she said.
Not loudly, just between us. I nodded. "He was proud of you. I want you to know that." I managed to say thank you. I'm not sure it came out correctly. The will reading was the following Tuesday. Just family. My father, my Uncle Terence, my Aunt Patricia, Terence's wife, Mama Ruth, Darius, and me. The estate was modest. The house, in Mama Ruth's name. A small savings account, $4,200. The 1998 Ford pickup truck he'd owned for 13 years. Some furniture. His postal service pension, which transferred to Mama Ruth. And then the attorney. Not Clarence Odom. A different man, an older man named Howard Banks who had handled Walter's personal affairs, pulled out a sealed envelope and passed it across the table. To Renata. In Walter's handwriting. I felt every set of eyes in the room. My uncle's face did something that I would spend the next 8 years cataloging. A flicker.
Fast.
The kind of thing you miss if you're not looking. But I was looking. I had learned to always look. He knew what was in that envelope. Or he thought he did. Mr. Banks cleared his throat. Walter asked that the envelope be opened privately, at Renata's discretion. I took it. I held it. I did not open it at the table. The meeting continued. At the end, as people stood and gathered coats and keys, Howard Banks touched my arm lightly and said quietly, "There's another matter, Renata. A separate matter. Could you come see me Thursday? Alone would be preferable." I said yes. He looked at my uncle briefly. That particular look that attorneys give when they are being professionally neutral about something they personally find offensive, and then looked back at me. Thursday, 10 o'clock. Don't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone. Thursday at 10, I sat in Howard Banks's office. He slid a business card across the desk before he said anything. Clarence Odom. Odom and Associates. Your grandfather attained Mr. Odom separately in December 2010. He left instructions for me to give you this card after the reading, with the message that you should go see him soon. Within 2 weeks, if possible. He said you would know why. I looked at the card. I thought about a Tuesday evening in November 2009, and a man with dialysis thinning his voice who told me not to ask questions while he talked. He had planned this. In the last weeks of his life, Papa Walter had been building a handoff. I went to see Clarence Odom the following Monday. That is when everything I thought I knew became something much larger and much worse. Clarence Odom's office was on Commerce Drive in Decatur, second floor of a building that smelled like old carpet and window units. He was 70 years old, silver-haired, slow in the way of a man who has learned that speed creates mistakes. He looked at me over his bifocals for a long moment before he spoke, like he was measuring something. How old are you, Renata? 16. Do you want anyone with you for this conversation? No, sir. He held my gaze for another moment. Then he opened a file on his desk. It was thick.
Tabbed.
The kind of file that represents years of careful, deliberate accumulation. Your grandfather first came to see me in December 2010, he said. He was concerned. He had become aware that certain members of your family had access to information about the Mutual of Omaha policy he had established for you in 1998. He was worried that after his death, an attempt might be made to redirect the policy.
He paused.
He also wanted to formalize something he had been tracking for some time.
He turned the file toward me.
What I saw on page 1 was a line item summary.
Dates.
Dollar amounts. Memo codes. My name at the top of every page. Your grandfather requested the full transaction history of your custodial account at First Federal going back to 2001. He then cross-referenced each withdrawal against Georgia's UTMA statutes, the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, which specify that custodial funds may only be used for the direct benefit of the named minor beneficiary. He turned to a highlighted page. Over 13 years, between 2001 and the date of this filing, there were 14 withdrawals from your account that do not meet that standard. Truck repair, football camp, a down payment on your brother's first car, Darius's car insurance for 2 years, medical expenses that don't correspond to any treatment in your medical records, educational materials that weren't for your education.
He looked at me.
Total, $47,312. The room did not move. The number sat between us like something physical. $47,312. Taken from my account, with my name on every withdrawal memo, over 13 years. I was 16 years old, and I had $73 in my own savings account, earned babysitting because nobody had ever offered me access to the money that was apparently being spent in my name. There is more, Odom said, and his voice was careful. Are you ready for the more? I said yes. I was not ready. He turned to a new section of the file. Page 1 was a document I recognized, the Mutual of Omaha Life Insurance Policy. My name in the beneficiary line, Walter E. Calloway as policyholder. Date, June 14, 1998. 3 months after I was born. Page 2 was a notarized letter in Papa Walter's handwriting, dated December 4, 2010. It stated clearly that the policy existed, that I was the sole beneficiary, and that under no circumstances had he authorized any family member to alter the beneficiary designation. Page 3 stopped my breath. It was a Mutual of Omaha change of beneficiary form. Filed March 22, 2011. 73 days after Walter died. The new beneficiary, Terrence Michael Calloway. Authorization signature, listed as executed under durable power of attorney granted by Walter Eugene Calloway. That power of attorney was revoked, Odom said. Your grandfather revoked it on November 19, 2010. It was notarized and filed with DeKalb County the same day. The revocation predates his death by 50 days. Terrence Calloway had no legal authority to execute that change. I stared at the form. The policy paid out in April 2011. $110,000. Paid out. Past tense. Already gone. Already in Terrence Calloway's bank account. Already absorbed into whatever my uncle had decided to do with $110,000 that did not belong to him. I heard myself say from a distance, "What are my options?" Odom leaned back. You are 16. You cannot pursue this independently until you are 18 at minimum, and practically speaking, you want to be an adult with standing and resources before you file anything. But this, he tapped the file, does not expire. The documentation is preserved. I have originals and duplicates. When you are ready, the legal pathway is clear.
He slid a second document across the desk.
Page 4. A signature line at the bottom. Your grandfather executed a letter of intent designating me as your representative for this matter. When you are ready to proceed, you come back here, you sign this, and we begin. I picked up the pen. Renata. He said it gently. You should understand what you're signing. This is not a small thing. This will involve your father's family. It may damage relationships that are not already damaged. It will take time. It will not be comfortable. I looked at him. Mr. Odom, I said. They took $47,000 from my account over 13 years and wrote my name on every single withdrawal. They took $110,000 my grandfather left me and transferred it to my uncle before the body was cold. I put the pen to the paper. I am 16 years old, and I have never had anything that was actually mine. I signed it. Odom looked at me for a long moment. Then he closed the file, folded his hands, and said something I have thought about nearly every day since. Walter told me you'd know exactly what to do the moment you sat down. He said, "That girl understands the difference between patience and surrender. Most people don't." Now here is the thing I have not told you yet. The thing that sat inside me for 3 years before I could say it out loud without my voice going somewhere else. Page 5. Page 5 of Odom's file was a document I did not expect. I expected the uncle. I had cataloged the uncle. I had watched his face at the will reading and read the flicker and named it correctly. I was not prepared for page 5. It was the fraudulent change of beneficiary form. The one Terrence filed 73 days after Walter's death. The one claiming authority under a power of attorney that had been revoked 50 days before the death. At the bottom, in the space marked co-authorized representative, a line I had not noticed the first time, was a second signature. Garrison Michael Calloway. My father. My father had signed that form. Odom said, very quietly, "I wanted you to see it in this context, with me present, rather than discover it alone." I looked at the signature for a long time. My father's handwriting, which I knew as well as my own, which I had seen 1,000 times at the bottom of school permission slips and birthday cards. The same hand that signed my birthday cards had signed my inheritance over to my uncle. The same man who said, "We're so proud of you," Renata, every time I brought home a good grade, had signed a fraudulent form to redirect $110,000 away from me. He had not been deceived. He had not been pressured, or uninformed, or manipulated. He had signed. His name. His hand.
His pen.
I did not cry in Clarence Odom's office. I want to be clear about that because I think sometimes people expect women to cry, and I want you to understand that what I felt in that moment was not sadness. It was not grief. It was not even anger, not yet. It was the very cold, very clear, very final feeling of a belief dissolving. The belief that at some level, underneath everything, underneath the football camps and the memo lines and the piano lessons and the way I always got Darius's backpack, my father had seen me. That some part of him knew what was happening and felt something about it. He had signed the form. He did not see me. Or he saw me, and it did not change anything. That is worse. That is so much worse. I went home that afternoon and sat in my room until dinner. At the table, my father asked me how school was. I said fine. He passed me the bread. I took a piece. We sat there in the ordinary geometry of a family dinner, and I held the knowledge of page 5 inside my chest like a stone, and I looked at his hands on the table, the same hands, and I said nothing. Because I was 16, and I had no proof yet that I was allowed to present. And because Papa Walter had said don't let them tell him otherwise, and the only way to ensure that was to be patient.
To build something.
To wait until the folder was thick enough that no one could say I was misunderstanding. I ate the bread. I said good night. I went upstairs. I opened the composition notebook and wrote. Page 5. Dad's signature. March 22nd, 2011. I closed the notebook. I started waiting. 3 years later, I was 19 years old, home from Morehouse on spring break, looking for my Social Security card. I had a summer research internship at Emory to apply for. The application required documentation. I was going through a hall closet shelf by shelf, opening envelopes, checking files. Behind a broken humidifier on the second shelf, tucked inside a green accordion folder I had never noticed before, I found the letter. From Terrence Calloway to Garrison Calloway. Dated March 14th, 2011. 3 weeks before the form was filed. Walter's policy has been redirected.
We handled it.
Renata won't know until it's too late. Burn this after. My father had not burned it. My father had kept it in a hall closet behind a broken humidifier, inside a green accordion folder, as if some part of him knew that one day this evidence would matter and he could not bring himself to destroy it. I stood in that hallway for 4 minutes. The grandfather clock, the one Walter had left to my father, the one that had sat in our hallway my entire life, ticked at 60 beats per minute, and I counted them. Then I folded the letter exactly as I had found it, put it back in the folder, closed the accordion flap, replaced it behind the humidifier. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of orange juice, drank it at the counter. My mother came downstairs 20 minutes later and asked if I wanted eggs. I said yes, please. She made eggs. We talked about my classes. I said Morehouse was good. I said my professor in economics was interesting. I said I was thinking about adding a finance concentration. She said that was smart. She had no idea. She had absolutely no idea. I drove back to Atlanta that Sunday with the letter's words burned into a part of my brain that doesn't forget things. I drove the whole 2 hours without music because I needed the quiet. Renata won't know until it's too late. Too late had already passed. The money was already gone. But too late, I had decided, was not the same as too late to do anything about it. At Morehouse, I went to see Clarence Odom. I was 19, and I could sign my own documents now. I sat in his office and said, "I'm ready to begin." He opened the file. "I've been adding to it," he said, "since you were 16. There are 3 new items. New item 1. The custodial account had continued to have irregular withdrawals even after Walter's death.
2 more.
2012 and 2013. Both in my name. Total additional, $6,240. New item 2. A letter Odom had obtained through a records request showing that in 2012, my uncle had contacted Mutual of Omaha to inquire about the possibility of converting the policy to a joint account. They had declined. He had not told my father. New item 3. This one. He slid a document across the desk. It was an affidavit from Mama Ruth.
Signed.
Notarized. Dated 6 months after Walter's death. Your grandmother came to see me voluntarily, Odom said. She had found out. She had confronted Terrence and your father both. She wanted it on the record. He paused. She was told by both of them, and I'm quoting her affidavit, that the money had been mismanaged accidentally and they would make it right. They had not made it right. Mama Ruth had signed an affidavit and then sat at 1,000 family dinners and said nothing and waited, the way old women who love complicated families wait, carrying the weight of what they know without letting it show. She knew. Mama Ruth knew. I thought about her hands on my face at Walter's funeral. You felt it. He talked about you. She had known for years. I left Odom's office with a full documentation package. 53 pages. Cross-referenced.
Tapped.
That weekend, I went to Office Depot on Memorial Drive in Atlanta. I bought a navy blue 2-inch binder. I bought tab dividers. I bought a set of sheet protectors. I paid $14.87 in cash. I went back to my dorm room. I cleared the desk, spread the documents out, began organizing. Tab 1. The original Mutual of Omaha policy. My name. 1998. $110,000. Tab 2. Walter's December 2010 notarized letter to Odom. His instructions. Tab 3. Revocation of power of attorney. November 19, 2010. Filed with DeKalb County. Tab 4. The fraudulent change of beneficiary form. March 22, 2011. Both signatures. Tab 5. The full custodial account transaction history, 2001 to 2013. Every withdrawal. Every memo. $47,312 over 13 years. Tab 6. Georgia Code Section 33-24-6. The statute governing beneficiary designations and the rights of named beneficiaries to challenge unauthorized changes. Yellow highlighter on the relevant passage. Tab 7. Mama Ruth's affidavit. I sat at that desk for 6 hours, building it the way Walter had built everything he built, slowly, exactly, without rushing toward the moment. When I was done, I closed the folder. I put it in my bottom desk drawer. I went to class the next morning. 8 years. That's how long I waited. 8 years of Christmas dinners where I sat across from my uncle and passed him the sweet potatoes. 8 years of Father's Day cards. And I bought them every year because he was still my father, and I did not know how to stop loving someone just because they had failed me in a way that had a legal definition. 8 years of watching Mama Ruth age and watching her eyes find mine across crowded rooms with that particular look that said, I know, and I'm sorry, and I am proud of you for being quiet, and I am sorry you have to be. 8 years. And then November 2027. Thanksgiving. I drove to Decatur on Thanksgiving morning. I left Atlanta at 8:45. The radio was playing something I didn't recognize, something cheerful that felt like the wrong key for the day. I turned it off after 2 minutes and drove in silence. The sky over the highway was the flat gray-white of Georgia November, the kind of sky that can't decide whether it's going to rain or just stay disappointing. I had the folder on the passenger seat. I had also, the week before, sent a formal letter through Clarence Odom to Mutual of Omaha and to my uncle's last known attorney, notifying them of my intent to pursue recovery of the policy proceeds and all associated damages under Georgia Code 33-24-6. Odom had advised me to do this before the dinner so that my uncle would have received the letter by Thanksgiving, so that he would know when he saw me walk through that door, so that he would have to sit across from me knowing that I knew and that I had already begun. I wanted him to have 4 days of that before I arrived. My Aunt Patricia's house on Old Flat Shoals Road. Same house every year for as long as I could remember. 2 stories, pale yellow, a sweet gum tree in the front yard that dropped spiky seed balls all over the walkway in the fall. Every year somebody said they needed to cut it down. Nobody ever did. I parked on the street. I sat in the car for 3 minutes. Breathed. The folder on the passenger seat. 7 tabs. 53 pages. I picked up the folder, tucked it under my arm, got out of the car. Mama Ruth opened the door before I could knock. She was 81 years old, moving more carefully than she used to, but her eyes were the same. Sharp, full. The eyes of a woman who had seen everything and decided to survive it. She held my face in both of her hands. Her palms were dry and warm, paper soft the way very old skin gets. She smelled faintly of the same powder she'd worn my entire life, something with lavender, something I could not name. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, quietly, just between us, Walter is in that face of yours. Right here. She touched my jaw. He always was. I said, I know, Mama Ruth. She pulled me inside. Dinner was at 3 o'clock. Turkey. Cornbread dressing. Collard greens. Candied yams. A macaroni that Aunt Patricia made from scratch every year with 3 different cheeses that was, objectively, the best thing served at any Callaway Thanksgiving. The table seated 12. My Uncle Terence was at the far end, loud as always, working through a story about a golf trip. His voice had the particular quality of a man performing comfort, of a man who needs everyone around him to be at ease so that he can be at ease. He was wearing a burgundy sweater. He looked expensive. He looked exactly like a man who had been living off $110,000 of stolen money for 16 years. My father sat to his left. Grayer than last year. Quieter. He looked at me when I came in and something crossed his face. Not guilt, not exactly, or not only, but a recognition. He knew I had gotten Odom's letter. Terence had certainly called him. He said, "Hey, baby girl," the way he always said it. I said, "Hi, Dad," the way I always said it. The folder was in the bag, next to my chair. Darius sat across from me. He had his wife with him this year, Simone, and their 2 kids, a 4-year-old who would not stay in her seat and a baby who was asleep in the carrier against Simone's chest. Darius looked good, settled in the way of a man who had built something real. He didn't know what was coming. I was almost certain of that. That certainty was the thing that sat in my chest all through dinner. Because the worst part of that table, worse than my uncle's performance of ease, worse than my father's guilty recognition, was Darius. Darius, who had gone to the football camp that was paid for with my money without knowing it, who had driven the car whose down payment came from my account without knowing it, who had grown up in the full allocation of this family's love and resources without understanding what that allocation had cost. He didn't know. And when he found out at this table in the next 40 minutes, that was going to be its own kind of wound, that part one had not wanted, that part one could not avoid. Between the main course and dessert, at 4:17 in the afternoon, I reached into the bag beside my chair. I set the navy blue folder flat on the center of the table. The conversation did not stop all at once. It stopped in pieces, like something going offline section by section, until the whole table was quiet. My uncle looked at it, then at me. His voice was very controlled when he said, "Renata, what is that?" Not a question, a statement. The voice of a man trying to decide what posture to take. I looked at him directly. "This is 8 years of documentation, Uncle Terrence. I'd like to walk everyone through it." My father set down his fork. The 4-year-old said, "What's that blue thing?" Simone lifted her quietly onto her lap and held her. I opened the folder to tablet. This is the original Mutual of Omaha life insurance policy that Papa Walter established in 1998. The beneficiary line reads, Renata Dion Calloway, sole beneficiary. I slid it to the center of the table. Everyone can see my name. I turned to tab 3. This is the revocation of power of attorney, filed with DeKalb County on November 19, 2010, 50 days before Papa Walter died. On this date, the authority to act on his behalf that had been granted to Terrence Calloway was formally, legally, permanently revoked. My uncle's jaw tightened. Tab 4. This is the change of beneficiary form filed with Mutual of Omaha on March 22, 2011, 73 days after Papa Walter's death. Filed under a claim of durable power of attorney. I paused. The same power of attorney that had been revoked 50 days before his death. I turned the page so the signature line faced the table. 2 signatures on this form. Terrence Calloway. Garrison Calloway. I heard my mother make a sound. Not a word.
Just a sound.
My father did not move. Georgia Code Section 33-24-6. I said, and I kept my voice even, the way Papa Walter kept his voice even when he was telling you something that cost him. A beneficiary designation cannot be executed by a person claiming power of attorney if that power of attorney was revoked prior to the policyholder's death. This change was fraudulent. The policy paid out $110,000 to Terrence Calloway in April 2011. I looked at my uncle. 16 years ago. Terrence pushed back from the table. "You're going to do this at a family dinner. I'm going to do this wherever and whenever I decide. You don't have the full picture, Renata. There are things you don't understand about what was happening financially at the time." Tab 5. I opened it. Placed the full custodial account transaction history on the table. 14 unauthorized withdrawals between 2001 and 2013. Every one filed under my name. Not one of them spent on me. Total, $47,312. I paused. Let the number breathe. That's on top of the $110,000 from the policy. That's $157,000. The table was completely still. My mother put her hands over her mouth. And then the sound that I had not expected. Darius. He had been still this whole time, still in the way of a person trying to understand what they're hearing while they're hearing it. Now he put both hands flat on the table and looked at my father. "Dad." His voice was strange. Not angry yet. Something before anger. "Dad." The football camp. My father looked at him. The football camp in Tallahassee. I was 12. The $2,800. Darius's voice was very quiet. "That was Renata's money." My father did not answer. "Tell me that wasn't Renata's money." Still nothing. "Dad." My father closed his eyes. Darius turned to me, and I saw it happen. I watched it move across his face, this man who had grown up in the full allocation, who had never once been asked to go without, who had carried his advantages the way people carry advantages they don't know they have, which is to say completely unknowingly. I watched him understand. "Renata." His voice broke on my name. "I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't." "I know," I said. "I know you didn't know, Darius. You were 12. You were 12 years old, and you were supposed to go to Georgia Tech, and instead, because I went to Tallahassee, Darius." I said it firmly, not unkindly. That was not your choice. You didn't take anything. They gave you something that wasn't theirs to give. He looked at my father with an expression I will carry for the rest of my life. Not just hurt, contaminated. The expression of a man discovering that his whole history of being loved might have cost someone else their whole history of not being loved enough. My uncle stood up. I am not sitting here and being prosecuted at a family dinner. If you want to pursue this legally, Renata, then pursue it legally, and we will see what a judge says about intent and context and tab 7. I placed Mama Ruth's affidavit on the table. I already have a sworn statement from your mother confirming that you and my father told her the money was mismanaged accidentally and that you would make it right. I paused. You did not make it right. Terrence looked at his mother. Mama Ruth looked back at him. She did not look away.
She did not speak.
She just looked at him with 81 years of accumulated knowledge in her eyes, and the silence of that look was the loudest thing that had ever happened in that house. My uncle left the table. He walked to the front door, picked up his coat, and left. We heard his car start. We heard him drive away. The table sat in silence. The baby stirred against Simone's chest but did not wake. The 4-year-old was very still, understanding that this was one of the moments adults have that children must be quiet through. My father had not moved. He sat in his chair with his hands in his lap and his eyes on the tablecloth. And then my father cried. I want to tell you that accurately because I think about it often and I want to be precise. He did not break down. He did not make a sound. What happened was that his face went through something, a sequence I had no name for. And then his eyes filled and one tear came down his left cheek, and he did not wipe it. In 31 years of knowing my father, I had never once seen him cry. Not at Walter's funeral. Not at Darius's wedding. Not ever. That single tear. I do not know what to do with it even now. I do not know if it was grief or guilt or simply the specific exhaustion of a lie held for 16 years finally reaching the end of what it could bear. I looked at my mother. She was looking at me with the expression of a woman trying to find the version of this she could have prevented. The kind of look that means I knew some things and I did not ask about the rest because I was afraid of the answers. I looked at Mama Ruth, and Mama Ruth looked at me and said, very quietly, very slowly, I told him when you were 9 years old. I told Walter, they are using that child like she is a resource. I told him. He said he was building something. He said she would be all right. She pressed her lips together. I should have said more. Louder. Sooner. No one spoke. I'm sorry, baby. I am sorry I was quiet for as long as I was quiet. The room held that for a moment. Then she reached across the table and put her hand over mine, and I let her, and I squeezed her fingers, and I held them for a long time. Drop protected in the comments if you think I handled that the right way. And if you have ever been in a room where the truth finally came out and you discovered that some people already knew, they already knew and said nothing, tell me about it below. Because that, more than anything else, is the thing that marks you. Not the betrayal of the people who took, the silence of the people who saw. I retained Clarence Odom formally the week after Thanksgiving. I was 31 years old, and it had taken me 12 years from my first visit to his office, but we were finally in motion. My uncle hired an attorney, which I expected. There was a period of about 6 weeks where letters went back and forth, where positions were stated, where both sides of the ledger were laid out in the bloodless language that legal proceedings use to describe things that are, in human terms, full of blood. What he had done was documented and incontrovertible. The revocation was on file. The form was stated. The signatures were real. Georgia Code 33-24-6 did not have a special provision for family emergencies or fraternal financial mismanagement or any of the other framings my uncle's attorney attempted. The law said what the law said. We settled 14 months later. $187,000. Not the full claim, with 16 years of market equivalent returns on the original $110,000, plus the custodial withdrawals, plus interest, was considerably more. But Odom advised that a settlement at this number was strong, was certain, and would not require me to sit in a courtroom and be cross-examined about my family's finances and my motives while my uncle's attorney made me sound like I was punishing grief with paperwork. I took $187,000. I sat with it in my bank account for 1 week before I touched it. I needed to feel it, not the number. I had known the number for years. I needed to feel the weight of it as something real, as something that existed in the physical world, and not just in a folder on a shelf. Then I did 3 things. I opened a Roth IRA and funded it to the maximum contribution, retroactively for 3 prior years. I put the remaining balance minus 1 amount into a down payment fund for an apartment I had been looking at in Midtown Atlanta, 14th floor, window facing Stone Mountain. The 1 amount I held back, $32,000, which I transferred to an account I had set up in Mama Ruth's name for her home care costs. Because she was 81 years old, and she had signed an affidavit when she was 72 that nobody asked her to sign, and she had held my face in her hands at a funeral and told me Walter talked about you, and she had said I'm sorry I was quiet for as long as I was quiet, and she should not spend whatever years she had left worrying about the cost of being cared for. She called me when the money appeared in the account. She didn't say anything for a moment, just breathed. Then, baby. Yes, ma'am. This is too much. It is not, Mama Ruth. Another pause. Your grandfather would have been so proud of you, he would have burst. I sat with that for a while, after we hung up. I let it be real. My father called on a Sunday afternoon in January for months after the dinner. He had not called before that. I had not called him. We had been in a silence that was different from all the previous silences. Not the silence of a family avoiding a subject, but the silence of 2 people who know that the next conversation is going to require something difficult from both of them, and neither is sure they are ready. He called on a Sunday. He said, "Can I talk for a minute?" Not a question. I said yes. He was quiet for a moment. Then, "I've been going over it. For 4 months I have been going over it, every decision, every form, every time I told myself it was temporary, or that you were strong enough to handle it, or that the family needed it more than you did." Another pause. I have been trying to find the version of the story where what I did makes sense, and I can't find it. I have looked at it from every angle I know, and I cannot find the version where it makes sense.
I didn't say anything.
I signed that form, Renata. Not because Terrence pressured me. Because I wanted it to be true that what I was doing was okay. I wanted to be able to tell myself we would replace it, and I signed the form before I had to think about it too hard.
He stopped.
I'm sorry. I held the phone. I hear you, Dad. I don't know if that's enough. I don't know either. Silence. I'm not going to tell you it's okay, I said. It is not okay. What you did had a legal definition, and it took something from me that I should have had, and I built a life in spite of it and not because of you.
Pause.
But I am also not going to tell you that you are only what you did, because I don't believe that's how people work. He was quiet for a long time. What do you need from me? I need you to be honest with me from here forward. I need you to not manage me. I need you to treat me like a person who gets to decide what our relationship looks like, and not like a situation to be handled. I paused. Can you do that?
He said he could try.
I said trying is where everything starts. We talked for another 20 minutes. It was not comfortable.
It was not resolved.
But it was real, and it was between us, and that was more than we had ever had. Darius called 2 days later. He'd been carrying something since Thanksgiving. I could hear it the moment he picked up. He said, "I need to say something, and I need you to hear it." I said, "Go ahead." I have been thinking about what it means that my whole childhood, the camps, the car, the things they did for me, came with that cost. That I was being set up, and you were being hollowed out at the same time.
Same family.
Same table. Different experience.
He stopped.
I don't know how to sit with that, Renata. I genuinely don't. You sit with it, I said. That's what you do. You don't fix it or erase it. You just carry it honestly.
I want to do something. Concretely.
Not because it fixes anything, because it doesn't, but because, Darius.
Yeah.
You named your daughter after Mama Ruth. Yeah. Then you already know what you believe about what gets carried forward in a family and what should stop.
Pause. Raise those kids the way they deserve to be raised. Both of them equally.
That's what you can do. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You are a better person than this family deserved." I said, "I'm the person this family made whether they meant to or not. I just decided what to do with it." The framed letter on my wall. It is not the Mutual of Omaha policy. It is not tab 4 with the signatures. It is not the Georgia statute. It is a piece of paper from Clarence Odom's file. Papa Walter's handwriting. The last line of the letter he left in that file in December 2010, 3 weeks before he died. 8 words. Don't let them tell her otherwise. W. Calloway. That is all. 8 words that a man wrote at the end of his life to a lawyer he trusted to give them to a granddaughter he loved, because he could see what was happening and he could not stop it, and so he gave her the only thing that might outlast him. The truth. Written down. Preserved. Sealed. He did not know if she would use it. He did not know if she would be brave enough or patient enough or prepared enough. He left it anyway, because sometimes love is not protection in the moment. Sometimes love is documentation. Sometimes love is the $3.49 folder at Office Depot and the 7 tabs and the 53 pages and the 8 years of silence that ends at a Thanksgiving table. Sometimes love is the weapon you leave for someone who isn't born yet into the full version of themselves. He left it for me, and I showed up to claim it. 2 years after the settlement, I got a phone call. It was a Tuesday afternoon. A young woman's voice, maybe 22, 23. She'd been referred to me by a mutual connection who knew what I'd done and thought I might be able to help. She said, "My grandmother died 6 months ago. She had a trust. She named me in it. And now my family is telling me there was a clause. They say there's a clause I didn't know about that redirects part of the trust to my mother. And my grandmother's attorney won't return my calls." I pulled out a notepad. I said, "Tell me everything. From the beginning." She said, "Are you sure? It's a lot." I said, "I have time." She started talking, and while she talked, I reached across my desk to the shelf above it and touched the spine of the navy blue folder, and I thought about a man on a porch swing in the gold evening light, and a girl with a sharp mind, and all the long, patient, documented years between then and now. I have time. I always have time for this. My name is Renata Calloway. I am 31 years old. And here is what I know. The family that loves you is not always the family that protects you. Love and protection are not the same thing, and one of the most dangerous lies told to children, especially daughters, especially the capable ones, the ones who are praised for handling things, the ones who are handed the family's hard circumstances as a compliment rather than a burden, is that love is protection. That because they love you, your future is safe in their hands. It is not always safe. It is not always safe, and the paper trail does not lie. The money my grandfather left was taken from me not by strangers, not by enemies, by the people who sat at my birthday tables and hugged me at graduations and said, "We're so proud of you." People who loved me. People who loved me and who looked at my future and decided it was available for redistribution when the math got difficult. That is what I need you to understand. It is possible to be loved and robbed simultaneously. It is possible to be someone's family and someone's resource simultaneously. And the antidote, the only antidote, is not rage. Rage is clean and fast, and it feels like power, but it ends too quickly. It doesn't build anything. The antidote is documentation. It is a composition notebook you open at 14 with trembling hands and 3 numbers written in ballpoint pen. It is the attorney's card transferred from palm to paper to memory. It is the Office Depot folder, the 7 tabs, the 8 years. Being the capable one does not make you the expendable one. Being the responsible one does not mean you consent to sacrifice. And choosing yourself, protecting what is legally, irrevocably, notarized and filed into Cobb County yours, is not selfish. It is not cold. It is not unloving. It is survival. And it is the most American, the most human, the most basic act of self-determination there is. Papa Walter knew this. He spent 44 years married to a good woman and 38 years delivering the United States mail, and he knew that the world respects what is written down. He wrote it down. He left it for me. I used it. And now I leave it for you. If you want to see part 2, where I walk you through the exact documentation process, how to request a beneficiary audit on any policy where you are or should be named, how to pull a full custodial account history, and identify fraudulent memo classifications under IRS Publication 970, and how to find the Clarence Odom in your city before you need them, hit subscribe right now. Comment folder below, and I will pin the link to the complete documentation template in the comments. The same template I now use with every client. The one that has, at this point, helped recover over $2 million in improperly redirected assets for people who were told, by someone who was supposed to love them, that they wouldn't notice. They noticed. You noticed. Send this video to someone who needs to know that noticing is not enough on its own, but noticing, documented, organized, and patient, that is a completely different thing. That is a folder. That is power. This is Renata Calloway. My grandfather saw me when my family was too busy to look. He wrote it down. The receipts don't expire. And neither do your rights. See you in part 2.